Radio Free Midworld is one of many shows that is supported by the Duckfeed.tv Patreon campaign. Go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv to support this show and get a whole bunch of bonus content from me and other people that you have heard on the show here. Welcome to Radio Free Midworld, a podcast about the Dark Tower series of books and other works by Stephen King. My name is Cole Ross, and I'm your host, and I'm here joined today by Autumn Greer. Hey, Autumn.
Hi, Cole. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. It is good to be back in the swing of things. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here as always. You know, you take a little rest and then you come back in ready to sing that Song of Susannah.
All these stanzas. This is a weird book. This is a very, very weird book. So I kind of want to jump right into it. So you read this, you read most of these contemporaneously. How did this one land with you?
You know, it's funny. At the time that I read it, which was right when it came out, if I remember correctly, the books all came out in pretty quick succession after Wolves of the Calla. Mm-hmm. I loved Wolves of the Calla. I was here for the Magnificent Seven. It's probably one of my favorite Westerns of all time. And then we got into this one, and I got to say, I did not love it at the time. I was maybe a younger, less mature reader, and I didn't appreciate how great it is to have an author actually finish a series.
Right. How rare that
maybe
is.
I was a little high-handed.
No.
Because coming back and reading it now, it's not my favorite book in the series, but I'm really enjoying reading it for the podcast.
It's nobody's favorite, I don't think. If it's your favorite, let me know so we can get some scientists deployed. I say that I say that harshly. I also say, like, I can understand, like, being kind of in the middle of this, being a little bit put off, because this is generally a series where things happen. And this is not a book where things really happen. I don't know.
Yeah. This is like when you get the Monopoly board out and you have to set up all the stuff. You have to pick who's a banker. Like it's a lot of setup and moving parts and pieces. It's very plotty.
Yes. Yeah, which is, not something King generally does. In fact, he specifically advises against being plotty. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But we're here to talk about the Song of Susannah. We're going to be covering what seems like a lot of the book here in the first episode. We're going to be doing Song of Susannah in three parts here. Just because, there is a lot of table setting that goes on, and the majority of the dramatic action is going to be happening in book 7, especially as we kind of take these little detours into the related works that kind of tie into the broader sweeping story that tends to tell. So we're covering stanzas 1 through 6 here. So this book came out in June of 2004. It is subtitled Reproduction, which is pretty appropriate because this is Susannah's moment in the limelight, in terms of kind of bringing resolution to the story that started in the Wastelands, right? With her getting pregnant, as she's got
she's got a chap and he's coming.
Oh yes. And he was in book 4, he was just kind of making himself known. In book 5, he was hungry. And here he is coming, although he will not arrive specifically until book 7. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is all about that. And, the whole subtitle thing didn't really start until, until the final trilogy, really. So I just want to put these out in a row here because this is, kind of one, it's the middle part of that final trilogy. So the subtitles have gone resumption, renewal, redemption, regard, and resistance. And here's reproduction, and then book 7 is revelation. So props on the alliteration there.
Oh, I think regard is really clever too to match up with book 4, Wizard and Glass. That's clever. A plus, Stephen.
It is, and they didn't just do like remembering, because that would be that would be kind of dumb. Yeah. Remembering would be done. Remembrance, slightly better. Regard is good. I like that.
Yeah.
The blow of Song of Susannah kind of being a lot of getting pieces into place was probably softened a little bit. I didn't realize this until I went back and looked at the actual dates. So this came out in June 2004. It was only 7 months after Wolves of the Calla, and then it was only 3 or 4 more months before Book 7 came out.
I have to say, I'm really happy that the internet was not maybe quite as developed when I read these originally, because you have to imagine if we had been waiting until the year of our Lord 2019 and they were all published in quick succession like this. Oh my gosh. I mean, the internet would just be tearing everything apart. Like,
I can't believe he rushed this. What's he doing? Well, he thought he was going to die. He had a near-death experience. He wanted to get it done.
Yeah, getting nearly iced by a van makes you look at your priorities and your opus.
Yeah, it makes you look at what you might have left undone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this book, it's softened a little bit by that, and it's definitely softened by, like, I don't know how this could have been worked into Book 7 without it making just everything like way too long. You know, Book 7's already pretty weighty. I don't know how you like do the split, because Book 5 needs to be about what it's about. But like, if you just look at this as like an interquel or like a prequel to Book 7, I think that it lands a little bit better.
I think that's probably a smart way to think about it. We've gotten so used. I mean, like, the Gunslinger is kind of a slender tome, but as we've moved forward, they've gotten thicker, and all of a sudden dropping back down to 400 pages. I'm like, is this a novella? Like,
it's like when you train in double gravity and then you go back to Earth and you're all strong and stuff.
Yeah, I'm moonwalking through this book.
Yes. This is just to pull the curtain back, when I did the note prep for this today, I listened to basically what amounts to a third of this book over the course of this morning, and then did the notes this afternoon.
Did you pad them out so I wouldn't think you were kind of phoning it in on the notes? Like, wow, Cole, 50 words? That's a lot of notes.
No, I didn't pad it out. I did, I did a little bit of, the general summarizing kind of stuff. No padding.
Yeah. But just to make the average show length, will be like, Webster's Dictionary defines song as.
Now, there are stanzas here, and, you might know these as verses, the Latin root of verse. No, we're not going to be doing that. Like, there's a lot of lore in this, which is not something that has necessarily happened. Like, Book 5 kind of introduced and really leaned on the Calla kind of patois, and the eld, the high speech has been kind of sprinkled throughout, but it's starting to be really important here. Like, this is, especially the last little stanza that we're going to cover here. There's an awful lot of like what wouldn't seem out of place in like a source book for the Dark Tower role-playing game.
I think that's a fair assessment. There's a lot of words that we haven't heard before that are going to be so important over this and the next book. Yeah. You're right. It's a lore dump.
Man, all those words, I forget. I think maybe King himself does the narration for Book 7, or he's done narration for enough of the books that I actually know how he intends for stuff to be pronounced.
Nice.
So yeah.
Is it Cantois? How do you say the CAN-TOI word?
It is Cantois. Yeah.
Oh, like a very fancy French.
No shit. No, I'm messing that up. I honestly don't know. I answered that with authority, but then I second guessed myself because it might be Cantois. No, I need to listen to that again, because I can't remember how George Guidall does it in this book, which concerns itself with a Cantois.
Either way, the Cantois are very scary.
Yes, that little pool of blood that never overflows on their forehead.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to talking about Hearts in Atlantis. That's a good story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Never saw the movie, which is weird that there was just a movie that was in the Dark Tower mythos that Anthony Hopkins starred in.
It's so weird what you gloss over. I've been rereading, for some reason I had the urge to read Different Seasons, and I had no idea that there was an apt pupil movie
Oh yeah,
for the one in there. And I mean, like, really good actors in it.
yeah, no, good actors. What is it? Oh gosh, Ian McKellen plays the plays the Nazi.
We got Magneto the Nazi.
A little bit of a turn. And then you've got David Schwimmer playing the teacher.
Yeah,
Who
that's
gets
right.
shot
The
at the
guidance
end.
counselor
Spoilers.
guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I need to read App People again. I need to read Different Seasons all over again. Actually, it's the 20th. This summer is the 20th anniversary of Shawshank. Shawshank the movie, which is shot in my hometown. So there are going to be all kinds of events over at the prison. So that's going to be fun.
Oh, that's the prison where you used to play as a young boy.
I mean, it's kinda. It's the prison where my parents used to work, and we've generally done tours. In fact, I'm doing a tour this weekend. And they have a really good haunted house there that they run every year as well. Yeah. Different Seasons. Sorry, I got sidetracked. That's a good. That was one of the first Stephen King books I read.
That's exactly why I'm reading it. I heard something about it the other day, and I was like, Different Seasons, huh?
Yeah,
I should get that.
Yeah. Two very highly regarded movies came out of this, and people generally don't know that they're Stephen King stories. Yeah. Surprise. Yeah. So something that that I've heard puts people off about this book is the fact that, unlike the previous books, the characters don't just take little jaunts into our world, let's say Earth Prime, or Keystone Earth, what have you. Most of this book is set here. It is set in New York, and it is set in Maine at two different times.
I wanted to ask you this because I know you have a lot of knowledge of Dark Tower lore. What beam do we live on, Cole? I have to imagine it's the rat beam.
Yeah, no, the way things are going. Rats are too good and pure.
But I mean, like, a fish is nice, a horse is nice, a rat. It seems like we should live on the beam of a rat. And don't get me wrong, I do love rats. They're great pets, but the scary Stephen King rats. That seems like that would be our actual world.
So like as of 1999 on Keystone Earth, obviously the beam of the turtle and the bear is still here. I don't know what the other beams broke were. Like, well, what is the one beam that remains? So we would have to be on one of those, beam of such and way of such. I am ashamed that I don't know that.
He should write a story now that it's 2019 and just have him accidentally like pop in and be like, oh wow, look, this is what it's like after all the beams fell. Everything's terrible.
Yeah, no, it has moved on. Yep, it sucks. Dump it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. The Dark Tower has kind of always kind of danced around New York and centered around New York, or different versions of it with Ludd. You just spend a lot of time there, which is weird, especially if you have, signed up for the, Middle Earth and the Wild West kind of aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
So also something that is different about this is that the book breaks up the ka-tet. They've been separated and have their own little adventures, but generally been traveling together for most of the previous books. Here, though, it's three different little groups, and this is already a short book, and you're spending just kind of a little bit of time with each of these teams.
Oh, it's like a long form version of the scene in the George R.R. Martin books where they take Daenerys's dragons from her when they're little and hide them from her in that scary house of mysteries and witchcraft.
Oh yeah,
this is 400 pages of that. You're like, God, just give her the dragons back. And I'm like, get the ka-tet back together. They're my friends.
Yeah, and they need to be together. They need each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's strange. Listening to this today, it kind of felt like an Avengers movie a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, where it's like, I mean, I'm kind of interested in what's going on with Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy guys, but I really want to see what's going on with what's his name, Spider-Man and Tony Stark. You know, it feels spread very thin.
I would like to be in the group in the ka-tet that does not go after the Soul Stone.
Yeah, just playing the odds.
Take a hard pass on that.
Yep. No, not it. Yeah. So, and we'll talk about the way that it breaks up. Today's episode is primarily going to talk about the setup for where they travel, and then we're going to spend a lot of time with Susannah and Mia, the demon that is possessing her, along with the pregnancy. It's complicated. So
that's her pregnancy status on Facebook. It's complicated. Very complicated pregnancy.
that's horrifying. Although, it's about as complicated as one of these can be.
Exactly. Who's the father of your baby, Susannah? Well, that's also complicated.
All right, let me get a chart. You got a whiteboard or something? Yeah. Okay, how many beams are there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you know about sex demons?
Oh, man. Do you have any kind of other broad thoughts about the book itself before we get in and talk about some of these stanzas?
You mentioned you asking that and then mentioning the stanzas. It is kind of a cool conceit in this book where it starts off with set of lyrics, like it's like an old timey folk song from Midworld probably,
yeah.
Where it kind of sets everything up. At the end of every single section, they add on another 4 to 6 lines to that main song, and I don't know, it's like having the characters in Disney's Hercules come in and sing some of the parts of it, like it's an interesting format that's a little bit different than what we've seen before.
Yeah, it's a little bit like like a Greek chorus almost. I mean,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, looking at the one from the very end, like they've got staves and responses, so it's like a folk song, but almost like a little bit like and I'm not saying this because of the Black Patois, but like a gospel kind of thing where there's a call and response. So It is set to like the Kamala, which we saw in book 5, but Kamala mocks Mix, you're in a nasty fix, to take a hand in a traitor's glove is to grasp a sheaf of sticks. So like real simple kind of reiterations of the themes that happen in these individual stanzas.
Yeah, it's definitely like the chorus in Oedipus the King, but like and just as cheerful.
Oh yeah.
Everything goes just as well as it does in Oedipus.
Yeah. the tone matches. But yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Like this picks up like right after Wolves of the Calla. With the townspeople of Calabar and Sturgis celebrating this victory, a little bit tone deaf. There's a little bit of 2 people died and their relatives are still here, but acceptable losses. Woo!
I really like the line in there where they were talking about how as the story grows over the next probably 20, 30, 40 years, however long the world still lasts, I mean, these tall tales grow and everyone's going to be saying, oh, yeah, I bagged like 100 wolves. I was totally there that day. I organized the whole thing. Like everybody's going to embroider their own story and their own part in it.
Yeah. Thousands of people were in that tiny club when the Velvet Underground killed Dr. Doom. Yeah. So that is good. And I especially like because Eddie's a little bit of our viewpoint character for this first little section, that is kind of tinged with bitterness. I kept on thinking of at the end of Wolves of the Calla, Roland kind of ruminating, saying the feeling afterward is always the same. It's disordered. It's it's sick. Like the sickness never gets better after the killing.
And Eddie's got it worse than anybody, just because Susannah's just disappeared. She's run off with that scary black orb.
Yeah. So not only is his wife gone, she may be attempting to end the world. She's got Black 13. And I believe that Eddie's already found his wedding ring, that he carved for her. They had followed her tracks and, discovered that Andy, messenger robot, many other functions, he had aided Mia in giving her a little kind of like motor trike kind of thing so she could get up to Doorway Cave. So he'd already seen that.
Oh, poor Eddie. Oh no, I just was shaking my head thinking about poor Eddie, and then I was also thinking this is why you never trust robots, especially if you're not nice to them.
No. They start resenting you. There's a whole thing about that. The machines went crazy. Everything's going crazy. Yeah. But Eddie's in his own fix. Jake is, distraught because he saw his best friend get exploded.
And Callahan has the book of his own life in his lap.
Yeah. I love the little bit where he's looking at the price tag on the flyleaf, because it's a first edition or whatever. And like some author's second book, why is it worth $900? Oh, man.
But yeah, I think I would also be a little bit blown away if I was sitting there with like a book of the darkest, most horrible time in my life where I lost my faith and crosses stopped working. Like I'd be staring at that like, wow, look at that.
Yeah, no, this is a disturbing reminder. I forget if he carries it with him because he doesn't go to Stoneham. Spoiler for the next little stanza here, but he intended to ask what's his name, Calvin, to ask Calvin Tower about that book. Like, okay, you're obviously from this world, you know what's up. Why am I and you? Yes. So, but yeah, they all of them are kind of just thinking this over. Susannah's gone. She's taken Black 13 and left the door in Doorway Cave that they had used to travel, closed and inert. And so they're talking with Henchik of the Manny at Rosalita's house, basically trying to figure out, can we like check the floor to see if there are any like little scraps of magic that we can that we can roll up and make into a passage to find my wife, please?
Yeah, we've got a plan, which is to go through this door. We just need the magic that will make the door open and close. And oh, by the way, we need it twice.
Yes. We need it twice, and we need some very specific coordinates where we're going to come out on the other end. Yeah. So the request is pretty simple. They need to open the door 2 times on the previous, 2 places that they had gone. First, wherever Susannah went, and then Stoneham, Maine in 1977, where they had kind of gone to Calvin Tower and kind of set up this nascent plan to use Susannah's wealth from her inheritance to set up something to protect the vacant lot, right? And so they've got the Manny. The Manny are very important for the first part of this. We get a little bit more detail about them. They are this kind of analog for Amish or Mennonite mystics that through their rites kind of travel between the worlds, between the levels of the tower. And they're just these eccentrics who blow in and out of town.
And I got to say, they're pretty cool.
Yep.
The pendulum stuff that we'll see later. I mean, they're cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like that they have such swagger about magic. Like they're like, oh well, like, can we do this? And they're like, well, things that are powerful magic stick around longer. And then they spit in the ground. Like it's just this like awesome like hick wizard.
Awesome hick wizard.
Yeah.
Can I airbrush that onto the side of my van?
Yeah, just chewing straw, doing magic. That's the Manny.
Yeah, no, and that kind of plays into their bearing, right? When they talk about the English, it is not necessarily in very friendly terms. They call them the forgetful ones. They're kind of the keepers of this, kind of more primal knowledge of the way the universe works, and they've got, they're not necessarily like, chanting incantations or casting spells to make this happen, but they've got the materials that they need, and they basically have the psychic energy to go where they need to go.
They're about to do a magic barn raising.
Ah, 'tis a fine barn, English, but sure 'tis no pool. Or Toadash space. Yeah. So, yeah, the plan is to gather 60 of these Manny volunteers, to go tomorrow. Kind of just with the idea being like, most of them are really old and they can't get up the path. There's this one boulder. It's a real pain. Eddie's having none of it, but they managed to cool him down. Basically like, hey, Susannah's probably not in trouble. We would know if she had died. So cold comfort there, but also she knows New York, which is probably where she went, and Mia will need that knowledge. Right.
Yeah. And if she left her cart behind, I mean, her wheelchair, she probably got legs.
Yeah. Or she could steal another wheelchair. Just lie in wait. So, or you just go into a supermarket and get one of the, get one of the rascals up front. You get about 200 yards for the battery runs out. It's fine.
Yeah.
So we have the last night. Roland and Rosalita, they've got this, very sweet little bout of old person arthritis sex.
It is funny when you picture both of them being so much older too. When she's like, I get a feeling when my man's getting ready to move on, and I'm like, whoa, Grandma, like.
Hey, I trust you. Yeah, you got to know it. If you say you know it, you know it.
Exactly. Roland's like, we'll bed down, and then if I could have one last rub down with whatever that cat stuff is, like, bring it on.
Yeah, can we squeeze some more cats from the road? And no, that is not a euphemism. Yeah. So, I mean, we're undercutting it with humor because grandparent sex is funny. But Roland,
it is a touching kind of scene. I mean, he's never going to see her again.
Yeah, and if he does, he's not sticking around. Like, this is not the arrangement. It was not fated to be. Yeah. Yeah. He even says, like, or when she says, I know when my man is getting ready to go, he, I think, internally reflects or, says out loud, I've forgotten what it felt like to be somebody's man. Like, just this, for as fraught as this entire stay has been, we're living in the aftermath of this disaster right now. It has been nice to have a moment of peace and to share some intimacy because, knowing Roland's past from the books that we have just come from, that's not necessarily a thing that has happened for him in a few millennia.
Yeah. I mean, with time being as flaky as it is, he might not have had a girlfriend for at least like 90 years.
Yeah. He developed some, he developed some tendencies, but Rosalita saw through it. It was good. So, things are a little bit worse for Jake and Eddie. Both of them are pretty bitter about this, but just about the way things shook out after the battle at the Cala. They're talking on Callahan's deck when they get this earthquake that happens. The Cala doesn't get earthquakes. That is pretty readily confirmed by Callahan. And then everybody else waking up from their drunken party stupor to notice this. And this is kind of the inciting incident that shows we're pretty close to, let's say, not the final countdown, but the clock is definitely ticking because it's not just an earthquake, it is a beamquake.
Yeah. Like the muffler was rattling before, but now the muffler has fallen off and is dragging on the road, blowing sparks. Yep.
Yeah. And those sparks are going to catch. It's not good, What do you think of the description of the beamquake?
It was interesting. Like you really get the urgency of it somehow. Like he doesn't dwell on it. He doesn't spend a lot of time there, but it really gives you this, oh shit feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And this a little bit comes with, a refresher course on why this is a big deal. Like we learn that there are only 2 beams left. We learn that there were 6 of them in the first place. And remember, the whole plot for the wolves was to gather twins to harvest things to feed to the breakers. These psychic folks who are actively working to break the beam. Right. So this is not just something that is happening. This is being sped along by these forces that are only briefly illuminated by the lightning over in Thunderclap.
Ugh. I just don't understand why so many people want to bring about the end of the world. I mean, we teased earlier about living on the beam of the rap, but like life is great. If you had soup dumplings, they're good. Like, why do you want to like?
I don't know. I think
Yeah. Like, I can't wait for end times. I can't wait to get raptured. Like, dog, like, there's a lot of good food here. Like,
yeah, no,
you know?
I mean, it's one, accelerationism is bad, and we learn a little bit later, the Crimson King, the person who is who is spearheading this, he's doing this possibly because he feels that he has been promised something by a greater force. Now, that greater force might just be him.
Yeah.
Making the promise to himself. Even here, as close to the end, his workings are still pretty shrouded in mystery. But so this is not the beam that they were on that snapped. It's kind of one of the perpendicular beams that got hit. Roland says if it was our beam, we would not have even probably heard the sound. He talks about the earth rending and birds falling flaming from the sky.
Yeah. So just a really quiet, pleasant death, like going to sleep.
Kinda. I mean, it's a little bit with like what soldiers say about getting sniped. Like if you hear the bullet they missed, or if you hear the shot they missed,
Ooh.
Yeah. So if
I were a sniper, I'd say that all the time to just people I met on the street. I'd be like, yeah. Like, that's a pretty cool fact.
Yeah. Just because they travel faster, the bullets travel faster than the speed of sound. I've got no idea if that's actually true. My inkling is that maybe a sniper would be prone to bravado, but I don't know.
It's my sniper headcanon now.
So that is kind of how the first little chapter of this ends, taking us into stanza 2, the persistence of magic, where we go up to the cave with the Manny, and Eddie nearly gets pulled off of a mountain. What do you think of this scene with Eddie saying like, "Oh, none of this works"?
Yeah, and I like it when he's like, "What is that? Like some plumb bob, whatever?" And they're like, "Whoa, don't touch it." And what was the line? Like, if thy would keep thy cream on one side and thy crap on the other, which I mean. We all want to keep our cream on one side and our crap on the other. Like,
no. Just give me one of those little cafeteria trays where they can, have the little ridge between them. No. Yeah, no, just do not touch it. Touch it by the chain if you prefer your cream on one side and your crap on the other.
Yeah. And the other thing is once they started swinging the plumb bob and it started to grow dim, oh, I love getting dim in Stephen King books.
It is one of my favorite concepts, going all the way back to The Stand and the Eyes of the Dragon.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start saying that when I drink like a whole bottle of wine. Like, y'all, I'm getting dim over here. Yeah. Like, am I invisible right now? Can y'all see me?
It's very good. So they go up here and Eddie's already kind of in his hole because they pass by Susannah's wheelchair, which is all beat up. Like apparently the villagers thought like, oh, we're gonna bring it out for him, as though that would be a welcome sight. So not necessarily the best. And so there's this demonstration as the plumb bob swings, and it's not necessarily a huge thing. As it swings, it kind of pulls when it reaches kind of the height of its swing the height of the pendulum motion, right? Which is not necessarily the way that ought to go. And it gets dim at the end. You can see through it to the to whatever's on the other side, but it also magnifies.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is not quite toe dash. Oh my gosh, what is it? There was one of these words. I forget what it is, but it was like ka-tet or something like that. And Jake makes a guess about the translation, but like the sound of the chimes in the high speech is translated as the House of Ghosts or something like that.
Yes.
Give it to me. Like
very cool.
I've really warmed up to the idea of fantastical languages.
Oh, yeah, there's a point later in this section that we'll be covering today where when Mia starts talking about the Prim, and I'm like, I don't know why, but that's the perfect name for like the primordial ether that everything comes. The Prim, yes.
Mm-hmm. It could have just been called the Prime, and that would have not that maybe would have sufficed. Like that gets the idea across. But there's something about dropping the E on that really sells it tonally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. King is getting another A+ for today.
Yes.
It's 2 A+, Stephen, if you're keeping track.
So, but yeah, Eddie believes now, and they circle up. And kind of talk about their plan. So the door's going to open up first to where Susannah is, and the plan is to go through Eddie and Roland to rescue her, and then to send Jake and Callahan. Which, I mean, no shade on both of them, but kind of the B team.
Yeah. They also, because it's been long enough since I read this that I had forgotten. I knew the big brushstrokes of the plot, but they were making me sweat in this scene with, well, we don't know if Roland's guns are going to make it through, and then well, you're going to have to leave Oi here behind, sorry. Like, I was getting upset. Like, I mean, now they don't have their guns and they don't have Oi.
So Oi is part of the ka-tet. Like, absolutely. But like, I don't know, since we last recorded, it's been a little while. I got a pet. And, when I was listening to this today, doing the research and refreshing myself, that wrenched at me in a way that it didn't before. Like, I understood it, intellectually, like, yeah, it's tough to leave anything you're attached to, but now that I've got this little cat, like, it just took me back to this couple months ago when I was in Milwaukee, leaving my cat alone for the first time, like, just worried that she would be lonely.
Yeah, and I mean, we already know, like, Roland's and they were just saying, like, yep, I know I'll never see you again, Roland. Like, that was great. I know my man's moving on. Like, I don't want Oi to move on.
No. Well, they twist the knife too, because Oi's crying and begging Jake not to leave him.
Oi's crying real tears.
Yes.
Like, real tears are soaking into his little fur.
Yeah, and Roland is kind of the person that we see, whose eyes we see this through, and he is deluding himself, saying like, oh, please just let that be imitation, like they do. But everything we know about Oi, he doesn't get a lot of time in the spotlight. But everything we know about Oi is he is just dreadfully intelligent and incredibly empathetic, and basically he is, he is sewn to Jake's hip. So yeah, this is pretty heart-wrenching. But
it turns out that he tricked me. I got tricked. Stephen King tricked me. I've read this book like 4 times. He tricked me again. He got me.
I couldn't remember if Oi got pulled through or if they just got him, picked him up when they swung back through the door later on. So what happens is the best laid plans are laughed at because the order it's a switcheroo. Jake is put in as the anchor to open the door. And there's I love the imagery of him forcing the door open psychically by imagining all of the doors and all of the worlds opening. I think it says creating a wind that would blow out the sun. So
Jake's a powerful little dude.
Incredibly, especially when he has 60 what'd you say, freaky hick wizards. I forget when he has a whole bunch of people amplifying him, right? But Jake reaches out, grabs the hook, and Ka takes over at that point. Ka literally like a wind, because Jake, Callahan, and Oi are pulled through first, taken to New York, and then the second wind pulls Eddie and Roland through to Maine. Kind of making Eddie wang his head against the frame as he goes through. And the chapter ends, for one brief moment, he was brilliantly aware of his passage between the worlds, then the gunfire, then the killing.
That's a little miniature cliffhanger.
Yeah, because the rest of this episode, guess what? Catfished. You're in New York with a lady talking to herself.
Yeah.
I'm selling it short.
We don't know if Oi still is actually alive. We got no idea. We just know he went through the door.
Yeah. Are their guns still there?
Yeah, and then there's gunfire. Then there's killing. Somebody's dying.
Yeah. It's probably actually very good that Eddie and Roland got sent where they did. It's because of the gunfire and then the killing. I don't know that Callahan would comport himself well under fire.
Yeah, I'm sure if he didn't comport himself well, like Eddie would be like, "Man, my first time that I did this, I was nude. Okay, like you've got pants on. Like, buck up."
Wow, I'm holding a book. I was holding my brother's head.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's go see what's going on over in New York with Mia in a chapter that I really enjoy. Trudy and Mia. This flashes back a little bit. This is to, again, right after the battle, when Susannah had gone through the door with Black 13. So this is her first arrival in 1999 in Keystone Earth. We see this through the eyes of this very hard-headed, aspirational, cutthroat. I think she's she works at a bank or something like that. Like she's getting ready to put the screws to it, like the owner of a toy store who owes her money.
I just picture it like, did you ever read those Kate Beaton comics where she does the 80s businesswoman, where she's got the shoulder pads and
Yep.
like the fact that she's got like pumps and then she's got tennis shoes and a little bag, like it's very 80s businesswoman. I'm sure she has a bag phone that they just don't talk about. Of course, I guess this is in the 70s, right? Or what year is this?
This is 1999.
Oh yeah, well maybe her phone's a little bit smaller then, but I just that's all I can picture is like basically like Murphy Brown,
Yep.
just strolling down the street.
Yeah, she is the subject of the Cake Song short skirt lawn jacket. So her name is Trudy Damascus, which is a little bit on the nose in terms of a last name. In terms of, Saul on the road to Damascus, seeing Christ and the scales falling from his eyes, the instant conversion kind of thing, But Trudy, her whole life has changed. She goes from being a skeptic to a believer basically in an instant because she sees Susannah blink into existence and then grow legs. So Susannah appears on her knees and then boop. Out come into the legs of her jeans, almost like a reverse of the Wicked Witch of the East being smashed.
Yeah.
the legs just kind of unfurl, and then there she is.
And not only does she like just blink into existence, she basically like robs Trudy.
So she's appearing and she's speaking in multiple voices. Trudy talks about it a little bit like an impressionist, switching personas, right? Like, oh, and now I'm doing my Jack Nicholson. Now I'm doing my Elvis. Just the completely different bearing because, I mean, a little bit of the scary part isn't just that Mia is in control here and calling the shots, but Detta's back in a big bad way. So I hope you're ready for some of that really uncomfortable dialect.
Yeah, but I gotta say, I want to high five Detta in this book. Detta's fun in this book.
Oh, she's so fun.
Yeah.
she is the voice of reason. She is the kind of the cunning that Susannah needs, especially because I don't know, like you get the sense that Susannah is not used to being sidelined at all. She's this new personality. Odetta is pretty much gone. Detta was, the idea was that she was integrated. No, Detta just was pushed down even further. Susannah's not used to being pushed to the back. Detta is, and she knows how to navigate this. So it's a little bit like tagging in your big brother, to help win the fight for you. Especially when you're elbowing for headspace.
There's a line a little bit farther in and we'll get there. But when Detta basically says to Susannah, this Mia is not smart. Like she's dumb. I don't know if you noticed this girl, but she is dumb.
Yep. We can
trick her.
Yeah. We can use that to our advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing that is I don't know, a little bit easy to forget because Detta isn't around for very long. And her presentation is, just incredibly bloodthirsty, right? Just, immediately wants to kill Eddie, wants to kill Roland. She is just this unrestrained id. Detta's the smartest of them in terms of just kind of like sheer cutting awareness. So yeah, she is the artillery that they need. I believe that it.
So,
good.
Oh, I was just gonna say, just of all the roads for Trudy to walk down that day,
and it's like right by the vacant lot too, which is
the one with the rose.
Mm-hmm. She'll be back there later. But yeah, no. So it's Mia who kind of demands like, hey, I need your shoes. But she doesn't ask as nicely. In fact, I think that Mia threatens to use one of the Ariza blades to cut off Trudy's breasts, or says, "No, if you go to the cops, I'm going to cut your boobs off."
Nice.
Yeah. So, and not necessarily pulling any punches. But yeah. They take Trudy's shoes and they take her bag. And at insult to injury, they take her newspaper. This is Susannah. They need her paper to determine what the date is.
Yeah, and to just do the Friday New York Times crossword.
Of course, yeah, it's the hardest one.
Yeah,
and that'll be good to have that out for too as well.
Yeah.
So, there's a little bit more story about Trudy going to report this to the police, and this is where she gets the people not believing the protagonist of a Lifetime movie routine from pretty much everybody that she tells the story to. People saying, oh, pulling out the same stuff. You didn't see her come out from behind a bus stop. Well, there is no bus stop. Maybe she came out from a shop. All the shops are closed. She genuinely had this conversion, and nothing's going to be the same. And in fact, this touch has given her this impending sense of doom. She is tuned into the way that things are tipping. So you can't say that she was changed for the better by this glancing encounter.
I mean, she's definitely one pair of shoes poorer.
I know, right? They were the good shoes. They weren't her kicks, right?
Yeah.
Oh. One detail that I love, because this is by where the vacant lot was, and not a lot of attention is paid to the fact that there's a building here now. It's a Two Hammarskjöld Plaza. She hears this hum, and our buddy, I forget what book he was in, but our buddy who a while ago, he had this terrible acne, but when he heard the humming, it started getting better. Well, here he is 20 years later, or 22 years later, after, Jake encountered him, and he still comes by every day for his quote acne treatments.
Yeah. I've been looking for a new skincare regimen, so maybe this is the way to go. I just need to find a vacant lot with a rose in it, or maybe there's a building there now, but
yeah, no.
Do you know of an artistic deli that I could go to fix my skin, Cole?
I hear they serve a good roast beef and potato sandwich now, or whatever Trudy was eating. Yeah. There's a whole there is a whole Scrooge thing, just a blob of mustard. Yeah. And just a bunch of stuff. But Trudy, she goes and she finds her paper by a plaza with this turtle statue. Turtle fountain with the graffiti, of course, see the turtle of enormous girth. Although she assures us that the turtle is indeed a very modest size.
Yeah. And obviously the listeners can't see us right now, but you and I are both doing one of those hammy winks, right? Like, oh, turtle.
Yep. We're going to see more of it. We're way of the turtle. Yeah. So, stanza 4 takes us to Susannah's Dogen. Now we're in Susannah's perspective. I didn't give you a chance to. What did you think of the whole Trudy kind of arc? Her little chapter in the spotlight.
It was a cool way to flip it around, just because you don't have. I mean, of course, you could have Susannah pop into 1999 and be like, "Oh wow, look how crazy this is! What is that? Is that a digital sign?" But seeing, I guess, one of us confronting this odd person from another world, I think is probably a little bit more effective, you know?
Yeah. And I think kind of resets resets the expectation, helps us remember to see some of these events through the eyes of an Earthling, not somebody who is kind of been saturated in Midworld and this and this mythos, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it really communicates the urgency too, because I mean, Mia's about to have a baby. Like it's imminent.
Yeah.
You know, and she needs those shoes, and she needs to get to a phone and somewhere immediately. You know.
Yes. I think they say so. She comes through. It's June 1st of 1999, and she doesn't think that they're going to get anywhere close to midnight on June 2nd. So the clock is kind of ticking. Like this is less than a day that they have for all of this to work out. So yeah, moving to Susannah's Dogan, we're back in Susannah's point of view. She's at this plaza park, kind of battling for control with Mia and Detta, flashing back to leaving the ring behind. What do you make of Mia being concerned about the about Eddie's scent, quote unquote scent being on the ring, saying like, hey, you don't want them after him too?
It kind of reminds me of gosh, it must have been back in book 2, maybe the drawing of the 3. There'd be these moments that little bits of Detta would slip into Odetta's speech, and she kind of wasn't cognizant of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that Mia has any goodwill towards Susannah, but wanting her to leave the wedding ring, I mean, she kind of by proxy almost, or by osmosis maybe, does have some regard for Eddie, just that I mean, you don't want the bad guys to get him, right?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, isn't something that Mia should care about. Like, I wonder if it's another little bleeding of personalities.
That's a good interpretation. I was a little bit not put off, but let's say put off balance by that sudden regard that she has. Because Mia so far, and for the rest of this book, is monomaniacal. She's obsessed with, getting the chap out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we see that, and Mia, that that obsession is continuing. She's not just here. She needs to get to a place with a phone, even though Detta and Susannah correctly surmise she has no way of knowing what a phone is. So there are people who are expecting her that told her to find a place with a phone.
I have to say, I thought that she might be, because I mean, we already know Detta thinks she's a dumbass. I kind of was like, okay, girl, yeah, you're gonna get it. No, she's right. They call her. I mean, she nailed it. She's like, I just have to get to any phone and they'll call me, which makes no sense, but it works.
Yeah. Yep. Man, they planned it out, I suppose.
Yeah.
But the labor pains got in. And obviously this is incredibly distracting. And Susannah, she kind of discovers or hones in on what her actual power is, because we saw a little bit of this when she was going to the banquet hall, but it's kind of laid out very nicely here, talking about how Jake was given this ability to see and hear from very far away, given what is broadly referred to as the touch. Eddie was given the ability to craft these talismanic objects. And Susannah, her power that she got, her Captain Planet power, has been pretty unclear, but now it's here. She can see things, and by seeing them, make them real. It is referred to a little bit as visualization, but like, this is a physical place that her psyche goes to. This Dogan, this kind of psychic / physical place based on Jake's description of the room where the older Slightman went, which is basically Andy's and the Wolves' base of operation, right? The Kwanzaa hut full of all the TVs and stuff. But because it is based on just a secondhand description and Susannah's level of technology, she is picturing like Zenith televisions and things like that. She's never seen an IBM workstation.
God, if only she had seen the film Pacific Rim, right?
This is where I admit I don't know specifically what you're talking about. Can you clarify?
Oh, the idea of Susannah controlling her body like a really awesome mech or something, is like, I got to learn to walk in this giant metal suit, like like picturing that, like a metal battle Susannah gunslinger.
Yeah, it's like she's playing The Sims with herself. She's got all these little meters and like ways to influence them, and they all have dependencies and stuff. Like she goes to turn the labor pain down, and like the other stuff, like the psychic distress and everything, like jump up. Yeah, no, she's got just all these different ways to directly control whatever is physically and psychologically going on, while also monitoring what her body can see and getting a status update on the chap itself, which distressingly doesn't have Eddie's hazel eyes, but has piercing blue eyes.
Uh-oh. Man, who else do we know that also has piercing blue eyes? Weird.
Bombardier's eyes
on
almost.
the tip of my tongue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna, I mean, yes, it's Roland's. It is Roland's child. We can say that. We'll get the answer as to why, as to how.
We'll find that out in 3 pages.
Yes, we will. So, but yeah, they've got this. And also, as she turns down, as the stress increases, like cracks start manifesting in the building itself and in the floor and stuff. It's a cool idea.
I really like that, because it's just because you can control it doesn't mean you should. Like, I like that there's consequences. You know, you're about to wreck the whole Dogan.
There's a cost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So back in real life, they've got to work out this deal, right? Detta has the ability to get on these controls and keep things smooth for Mia so she can get wherever she needs to go, but they need to renegotiate these terms. But they can't do that sitting on the bench in this plaza. They've got to get to a private place. Mm-hmm. Taking us to stanza 5, the turtle, where all of a sudden this just becomes a comedy again.
Yeah, well, it's where we find the turtle of extremely small girth.
Yeah, just a tiny little guy. So, yeah, they've got to meet face to face. Mia says, "Hey, castle at the abyss. Let's find a place to pass out." And a little bit of Deus Ex Machina here, or a bit of a plot contrivance. Susannah gets a vision. She goes Todash, kind of seeing something that already happened. The scene from Wolves of the Calla. Where Eddie and Callahan were in Doorway Cave, and Eddie like noticed something sewn into the lining of the bowling bag that holds the box with Black 13 in it. And they just kind of, say, "Oh, we're going to check into that later." Well, Susannah has this now. And you will recognize this, Autumn, because you were on the episode of Desperation. It's a Kanta.
Yeah.
It is a tiny little ivory scrimshaw turtle. Got a little question mark kind of imperfection on it. And it is the Shulpada is how that's pronounced, although it looks like it should be written Skulpata.
I'm just making a mental note, since I know that you just listened to the audiobook. I'm just going to make a mental note, because I definitely would have said Skulpata. So yes, Skulpata.
Yeah. Who knows if George Guidall got good direction on that, or just decided to wing it? No idea. But if you think back to book 3, when Jake had his key and was drawing little crowds with it, the Shulpada, this turtle, does the same thing. In fact, it immediately draws the attention of one Matheson Van Wyck, or as he would insist you call him, Mats. I think he's like a deputy diplomat from Norway, because they're over in Turtle Beach, near where the UN is. And he wants that turtle.
Gosh. It just goes to show that the wrong people always end up with these magic turtles. Like, Cole, I think you and I are nice, kind people. Like, I think I could wield that turtle well,
Use it
like,
for good.
I wouldn't just be hustling Norwegians for free hotel rooms. I do good with it. Like when Susannah fixes his bad bowels. Like, by the way, after she hypnotizes him into renting her hotel room and giving her a bunch of money. And then she's like, by the way, you said you were having some bowel problems. That'll be fixed forever. Yeah. You'll be regular. Like, that would be me. Mm-hmm. I deserve a turtle.
Yeah. Just tremendous power of suggestion. I deserve it. Where's my turtle?
Yeah. I mean, and Cole, you're a good guy. I feel like you could wield the turtle well too.
The thing is,
if I had a turtle, I'd share it with you.
It was okay. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and every other Sunday, it's yours.
Yeah,
exactly. Then we can pass it off. Although mailing it would be tough.
Yeah.
Because somebody would know.
Yeah,
Somebody would
that's
break
fair.
into it. Boom, turtle's gone. It's out in the world.
Yeah.
All kinds of ignoble.
Just invite a bunch of my friends over. Yeah, you guys want to come stare at my turtle for a little while? Like, oh yeah, we love looking at your turtle, Otto.
See, the thing is, they can't want the turtle. You have to use the turtle to make them want better things for the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Don't get back with your ex.
I said that in a very sinister way, and I maybe I don't deserve the turtle.
Yeah, actually, I guess the more that I think about it, I'd use it really like well for like the first week. If I had a turtle that hypnotized people, like the first week, I'd be like really like beneficent and like like magnanimous, and then I'd probably be like, "Hey, can I get 2 ranches and not have to pay for it?" Like at McDonald's or something,
And
like
it
we
would
have to charge you 18 cents for the second one. I'm like, do you look at my turtle?
How are your bowels today?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Be the same as shame someone made him irregular.
So Matt's he immediately turns kind of childlike when he sees this. And kind of divulges everything. We talked about like, oh, I finally got my bowels regular, and he admits like, oh, my wife is sleeping with somebody else, and it makes me very sad. And also I would like that turtle very much. And Greta kind of identifies like, all right, this is probably our way. He seems like he has a lot of money. Like we said, he hypnotizes hypnotizes Matt into giving her his credit card, and then also going and renting her a room at the UN Plaza Hotel nearby. So her and Mia can go have their palaver. And this also draws like a crowd of teenagers and stuff too. So a little bit of a running thing here is Susannah's reaction to a New York for more than 30 years after she left it. And she's not so much like, disturbed by the technology, like she calls a computer a television with a typewriter attached to it, which is pretty accurate. But she is really concerned about midriffs.
Yeah, midriffs, and she just needs someone to give her the deets on the current state of race relations.
Yes.
Like, is it okay if I do this?
Yeah.
I came from a very segregated time.
Yes. No, I genuinely have reason to fear for my life. If you could just give me the update, that would be that would be good.
Just give me the 411 on whether it's okay for me to be checked into a room with a Norwegian diplomat.
Yes. Yeah. And now I'm sad. But she takes the credit card and goes to the hotel. And she marvels at this mixed race woman who's the clerk at the front, saying like, oh, wow, just, the fact that she, again, race relations have moved on from the 60s, and to avoid suspicion, Susannah uses the turtle. However, doesn't quite pan out because this woman starts speaking of the Crimson King, saying that all will fall before him and such.
Yeah, she does say some scary, ominous things.
Yeah. You get the sense that the king is looking through her eyes, right? That
whenever someone says "O Discordia," whatever happens next is usually not good.
No. Something that could probably be called just overly derivative of Tolkien is something that also I kind of like, which is the idea that, the red eye of the Crimson King watches and sees far. We're going to see that when we get to the castle on the abyss. A little bit earlier, Jake was talking to Callahan and kind of obliquely referred to something he hopes doesn't happen. Callahan got confused and he pointed at his bandana, which was red, and pointed at his eye. They're like, oh, the eyes see far. The paranoia is absolutely justified, as we see later. Like there is spying happening, but just the idea that as they get closer to Endworld in the on Roland's level of the tower, the danger gets higher, that these forces that they have mostly been remote from previously are going to start taking a greater interest in them. I love that sense of paranoia and depression.
Agree.
Yeah. So, of course, they go to room 1919.
It had to be room 1919.
Absolutely. And when Mia put the sorry, these safes, I always love these safes. I put my toothbrush and toothpaste in the safe whenever I'm in a hotel with a safe.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do. Not for any like reason. Not that I think anybody's going to get my good Colgate or whatever. No, but it's fun to lock something in a safe.
Yeah, too many movies, and you don't want them to have a source of your DNA, right?
Oh,
so they
God.
can cross-reference all those crimes.
Yeah, all these imperfect Coles coming after me. Hello and welcome to. No.
Yeah, we know the guy with the turtle is doing some terrible things. If we just had his DNA, we could get him.
Just a bunch of red hair and just a ball of legs just rolling across the countryside like a tumbleweed. It's no good. It can't happen again. But Mia puts Black 13 in the hotel safe and gives the combination 1999. And then very cutely asks Susannah, "How do I make the phone ring?"
Oh, honey.
Oh, he'll call you when he's ready.
Yeah.
And now it's time for the palaver, where we get a lot of exposition in stanza 6, the Castle of Lore.
Yeah.
Where they go Todash, kind of, to this castle at the center of a dead town called Fedek, that was wiped out by another fictional disease. This time it wasn't Captain Trips. This time it was the Red Death, from Poe's The Mask of the Red Death.
It's really interesting, and it feels deliberate to me. And we'll see this. I feel like what happened here is King, obviously, with these books coming out in quick succession, he knew where he wanted to end up, and he had these threads, and he wanted to bundle them up because we've seen famous authors' works in this already. Like, obviously, we went to Oz effectively. We've got like little ruby slippers and everything, but he makes sure to call out a lot of authors in this. Dickens, he mentions Edgar Allan Poe twice in just this section. Like we've started to see that authors' works can be realized in the real world. I mean, shoot, like Callahan has Salem's Lot on his lap.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's kind of trying to set this up and show that these stories and writers have some power and influence in these worlds.
Yeah, some basis, and it's confusing. I mean, even when we get to what King is trying to soften the ground for, when he inserts himself into the story, that's not necessarily a huge revelation for people. I hope not. Even when we get to that, it's unclear specifically how it works, right? Because it's not like these authors are writing and creating this stuff. But also it's not necessarily, that they have glimpsed this or it has been pulled from another world into their fiction, right? They're like, it's a little bit like two sides of the same equation almost, and it has to balance out. That probably didn't make as much sense as I thought it would when I started the sentence. But yeah, he is absolutely laying the track for that. And also, I don't know, I just like the idea of an entire town that is laid low by a fictional disease.
Yes. A really gross, bloody one too.
Yeah. And it just, I mean, I don't know, like all the stuff in N-World, like Thunderclap and beyond, in book 7 specifically, but here where we're in the Castle on the Abyss, and later when we get to Castle Discordia and things like that, like this, all the just Dark Souls ass stuff, the doomed castles and the blasted wastelands, and the abyss that this castle is perched over is a gigantic ravine that a bunch of monsters fell into, and now it's the land of the monsters.
I don't mean to bag on the villagers of Fedek, the Fedikians, but the fact that you settled around the castle on the abyss, like you had to know this was not gonna, like property values weren't gonna hold. Like there were gonna be problems.
As long as the bridge is there, it's fine. But no, it's they probably should have foreseen that. We're gonna move in next to the mercury plant. Nothing can go wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, just all of this just apocalyptic medieval stuff. I'm a sucker for it. I don't care if it's superficial. It's just really my style. So yeah. But this is where we get a lot of exposition. And Mia confirms what we, alluded to, or outright stated before when we saw those blue eyes on the fetus, that Roland is the father of the chap. And Mia is, first off, this is the first time we've seen Mia in the flesh. She is, an attractive woman who happens to be white, which Susannah imagines puts dead off tremendously. And she is walking along these battlements, kind of making these grand proclamations and gesturing to the mountains that are, these blasted peaks and stuff like that. And she declares, yes, I've looked into your head and I've pulled from your knowledge, and I'm going to name the chap Mordred because, like in your legends, Mordred is going to kill his father and bring about the end, referring to Mordred, the son of Arthur. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, Mia's here for it. She's like, oh yeah, I carry your den's doom in my belly. Like,
and there's kind of nothing you can do about it. Yeah.
Ooh, I got a bunch of den's doom right here.
I've pulled a bunch of quotes from this specifically because the wording is good, but also we're going to need to be kind of specific with some of the ideas that are being played with here.
Well, we need to make up for that line that you glossed over earlier, which is you said that Susannah would be upset that Detta would be upset that Mia was white, but I believe the line is, because I wrote it down, how that must frost Detta Walker's racially sensitive butt.
Yeah.
So we could use some good writing.
We could not necessarily. Hey King, I'm gonna give you a D+ on that one. We've been handing out some A+. We're gonna give you a D+.
Yeah. Ooh, that's gonna frost her butt. you tell him, Susannah.
Yeah. Boy, no, I don't care for that one bit. So,
yeah. So let's hear a good line.
Let's do that. So all of this should be predicated by the fact that this is Mia giving the lecture about the way Midworld and this cosmology works, and kind of talking about these values. Understand that, like Detta said, Mia is not that bright. And also she is being manipulated by forces greater than her. So I like the doubt that is cast into this. But Mia, in talking about the decay that is happening and, the decay that the Crimson King and Mordred are going to accelerate, talking to Susannah, she says, "You doom yourself, Susannah. You seem positively bent on it, and the root is always the same. Your faith fails you, and you replace it with rational thought. But there is no love in thought, nothing that lasts in deception, only death in rationalism." Which, I don't know, reading this and then thinking back, did this just immediately make you think of the entire thesis of The Stand?
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out if this is actually true in kind of the broader philosophy of this series, because The Stand very, with a very straight face puts forward that, technology and logic and the hard cases will only lead to destruction, whereas the softer, more faith-driven touch, this very kind of 70s naturalistic fallacy idea, will ultimately be what saves us. Kind of how do you reconcile those two things, where it's presented as a good, this idea is presented as a good thing in one work and then like literally put in the mouth of a villain in the other?
It's, I guess you could also take a look at Salem's Lot with this too, because we have seen, a big problem is that at first a lot of people didn't want to believe in vampires, or, Callahan definitely loses his faith and is trying to assign this structure with these different tiers and levels of vampire. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like it touches on a lot of themes from Stephen King stuff. I mean, we see it in It when they grow up and they've got all that rationalism now, but I mean, they also have this magical experience from when they're young. Like it's, Well, it's like a thesis
Yeah,
for all of his works.
Yeah, it ties a lot of this together. I believe that it holds true because, this is used as almost a motivation for the mythology of why the world is moving on, right? By talking about how magic is replaced with this technology, quite literally. So, the Prim, this soup of chaos, the space outside of the space outside of order, receded. It was like a gigantic sea. And when it receded, it left the world with the tower to kind of hold everything together. And there were places where stuff from the Prim just kind of got beached, right? And that's where you get things, like the Crimson King. That's where you get things like Pennywise. And so
I think she says when the age of magic passed, the age of machines came.
Yes. And it wasn't that the machine came, it was ushered, right? Magic faded, and the beams, they were fading too. Man tried, they basically pulled out the organic guts of whatever was going on here and propped it up with technology.
We should have never made those dipolar computers and those slow trans engines like Blaine had. Should have never done it.
Damn you, North Central Positronics. No, quite literally, damn you. You pooched it. Another quote here. The Crimson King's breakers are only hurrying along a process that's already in train. The machines are going mad. You've seen this for yourself. The men believed there would always be more men like them to make more machines. None of them foresaw what's happened. This universal exhaustion. So when you replace magic with technology, what is left to replace technology? If magic has already receded, right? If faith has given way to rationalism and rationalism has consumed it, there's nothing left to order the world, and stop the tower from falling and to keep the Prim dammed up outside of space, right?
Yeah. We thought we were just coming to deliver a baby, and it's even worse than we thought.
Yeah, no, we're learning how the world works, and it is not necessarily
or how it does not work anymore.
Yes, how it has ceased to function, and it is not that the tower is a shield that keeps spiders out. Mr. Roland from the movie. Sorry. So as this magic fades, these demons that are left behind are waking up and they're kind of seeping in, and Mia talks about, some of these, there's ways they've manifested, they're house demons, but we, call them ghosts. Others are just straight up plague. So, it's possible, when we've seen Captain Trips manifest in these other levels of the tower, like in Topeka, when they came, when they left Blaine the Mono in book 4, and the Mask of the Red Death, all this stuff, this disease is a manifestation of some elemental force that is left behind. And this is where Mia lets slip that the Crimson King the king is working, to topple the tower at the promise of some greater force. But there is, plausible deniability here that he is absolutely insane and probably just promised it himself.
I really like there's this kind of parody here with Mia mentions our kind of surprises Susannah with something she hadn't thought of, which is Roland's never told you that he was going to save the tower. He just wanted to see it. And Susannah's like, oh, damn. And later we kind of see the same thing. Like Mia's like, I'm going to raise this kid. And Susannah's like, they never told you like how long you'd be raising it. What, 10 minutes? Like, and she's like, oh, damn. Like,
oh, yeah. A lot of us kind of jumped to some conclusions there, didn't we?
Huh. Yeah. Like, oh man, I didn't think of that.
Yep. No, I mean, so like Mia dropped some science, and I don't know. I meant probably a few years ago, I meant to kind of go through this run looking for times when Roland had talked about like, oh, I'm going to save the tower. I'm going to stop this decay from happening. As we sit here and talk right now, Autumn, most of what I can think of is him wanting to see what's at the top of the tower. This is,
it's just getting there.
Yeah. Like it is a pilgrimage. It is not necessarily a rescue mission. And it's a real case of there's nothing in the rule book that says dogs can't play basketball. Yeah. That's another sign that the world is moving on. Dogs play basketball. It's real fun until it all ends.
Yeah. Roland's going to open the top door of the tower and it's just going to be Air Bud.
Just many, many different sequels to Air Bud.
Just making dunks.
Mm-hmm. Good, clean fun. Yeah. So there is a little bit of a nice little parry and riposte on that we see later, because Mia, as we said, is being manipulated. What exactly is Mia though? Because it's not quite clear. She's from Midworld, but not quite. Like, how could she live in this castle that has no food in it, in the center of this town that is dead, in the middle of this region that is known to have toxic soil, etc.? Well, over all these other demons, there are these 6 elemental demons, just like there are 6 beams, and every demon has these 2 aspects. They can be male and female, and are therefore infertile, which is why she views what she's been given as a gift. And I'm just going to say what happened and how she happened to father a child with Roland here, because it spans several books. We may have squeamishly alluded to what was going on obliquely back in the beginning, but now we can lay it out. So remember in book 1, when the Oracle, this succubus, was about to, sleep with Jake and suck out his soul or whatever, and Roland went in and kind of intercepted the Oracle and then slept with it. So
yeah, he just dosed a bunch of mescaline and had sex with a demon.
Yep, and just like gunslingers do. So the product of that union, his sperm, his genetic material, was taken into this demon. And the demon who raped Susannah later in book 3, as they were bringing Jake through another speaking circle, that was the male aspect of the same demon, this same elemental, possibly. And that is when the seed was transferred, having been laundered through this invisible force, this elemental force that was, if Mia is to be believed, given tangible form, deposited into Susannah's body in order to intercept the chap and, raise it in the castle, as Susannah was, basically sending nutrients to it through this Todash kind of arrangement that they had going on.
I would love to be sitting in the gallery in court, or just be a fly on the wall where they, I guess they do all the child custody cases in Roland's world, where they're like, okay, well, tell me about your interaction with the demon. So no promises were made of future support by the demon.
This would be the most confusing episode of Maury.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you are the father, but not like you think.
All right. So, 6 degrees of separation. What if all the steps in between were demons? And also, and also at the end, you ended up getting your best friend's wife pregnant.
Ooh, Roland.
Yeah.
I know you were on that mescaline, but you should have wrapped it up, bro.
There weren't really that many animals around. There was nothing they could, make a rustic condom out of.
Well, what's the point of having that big bag that you carry around with you with all of your tobacco in it if you don't have a few prophylactics, Roland?
Yeah, man. No, you keep your mescaline in there. What about your DOMs, man?
Have you seen these horses with extra legs? Wrap it up.
Yep. You don't know what could be out there. The Red Death's in play. Come on.
Exactly. You could be making threaded stock out there, Roland. It's not good.
So we're joking because this is farcical. How did you take this when you first encountered it back in the day? I'd be curious.
I'm like, I'm like, well, that was a handy plot device. It's like what are those backronyms where there's an abbreviation for something and you make up a sentence to go with it? Like this is like a backronym. Like just okay, well, I do need her to be pregnant from the demon. Man, if I did this, it'd be more dramatic. Oh, okay. Like it just feels a little plotty to me.
It doesn't feel like it was planned ahead of time. It feels like it wouldn't have been better if it was planned ahead of time either. Like this is the gambit that I was set up to, to execute over the course of 30 years of my writing career. Yeah, it feels like like retcon is like probably too strong of a word because it's just an explanation for everything that happened. What bothers me is it feels like it's over explained.
Yeah. Like, remember like last year when everyone was doing those tweets when they would do them over the course of 6 months and then the first letter of every single tweet would actually spell a sentence or something? I feel like Stephen King just happened to notice that a few of his tweets spelled out something and he was like, yeah, there it is.
Lots of people are having sex with demons in my books. How can this line up?
Yeah, like, oh, cool. What a fun coincidence. I'm gonna write this in and make it like fact.
I don't know. So I think that the result.
I mean, it could have just been a demon baby. Like Susannah also had sex with a sex demon. It could have just been a demon baby, and you could have made that demon whatever you wanted. Like making it Roland's child. Like
make it the son of the Crimson King.
Why not?
Yeah, because I mean, and this is kind of probably next level. I forget if this is mentioned in the books. I think it might be obliquely mentioned in the books, but it's absolutely mentioned in the comics. Roland and the King are related because
what?
Yeah, no, Arthur Eld, through kind of a similar circumstance, ended up having sex with a demon from the Prim called the Crimson Queen, and that is what produced the Crimson King. And so they're kind of, it's a little bit of like a Cain and Abel kind of thing, right? Where you have the Crimson King who ends up being, the Cain, setting up all this stuff, half demon or what have you. And Abel being the line of Eld that kind of passed down and inherited Gilead and ordered the earth, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
we've got Mia saying all this really cool mystic shit, and then Susannah and Detta just roast her.
They like go over to a corner and they take out their get a load of this guy camera. And this is where Detta this is where Detta cuts in saying like, yeah, no, she's dumb as a box of rocks. Who knows if we can actually believe what she's saying? And this is where they take it and put it to her saying like, all right, well, we're manipulated. You basically have edged us further and further into this without really telling us the truth. And let me find my notes here. And they kind of put it to her like, okay, well, how do you know that you actually are this elemental demon? This high thing, well, just basically, is any of this true? And furthermore, this child that you want to bear, because no demon can have a child. There's this line of stories that that you've been sold. Do you know that you're going to get to take care of it? Like you mentioned that it's not going to have a normal childhood. You're not going to have 18 years with this. It's probably going to be a few. But you have no way to believe that. In anger, Mia takes them home. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say when Susannah says to her, "You're nothing but the babysitter, girl." Like that is a sick burn.
Oh my God. Calling this person who is obsessed with motherhood the babysitter.
Yeah. Like, she's like, my name means mother. And you're like, you're just a babysitter.
Yeah. Who gave you that name? The person who wanted you to be obsessed with motherhood, huh? Yeah.
Oh. The person that hands you $10 at the end of the night and drives you home. Like, you're a babysitter.
I forget. It's either during the scene or during the phone call. But when Mia's kind of saying like, no, I just think that they said I'll have the baby and I'll raise it and I'll be the mother of the heir to the new earth. And then Detta comes forward and gives this really kind of crass summation, but it kind of gets to it like, oh no, honey, I'll let you know before I finish and I won't get any in your hair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just like, oh yeah, like these are a bunch of dudes who lied to you, just like somebody who's very inconsiderate about blowjob etiquette. Like, so
Which I have to imagine that the low men are probably pretty inconsiderate about blowjob etiquette.
they seem pretty selfish to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Given that they are rats in human suits.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. So, I love the description of this when the phone rings and an angry Mia takes them home, tearing the world open like paper. Again, ripping from the sky down. Just as we're talking about the power of fiction and stuff, Autumn, have you seen the John Carpenter movie? Oh gosh, In the Mouth of Madness.
Yes.
Yeah. Watching that, we covered it for a bonus show that we're doing on the network about adaptations of Lovecraft stuff. And that description of the world tearing open like paper is almost exactly like when Sutter Kane goes through into the abyss. That effect of just kind of like the photo tearing effect on him. And a whole bunch of In the Mouth of Madness gave me incredible Dark Tower vibes. Like it had been a while since I had seen it. But watching it with Dark Tower in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, you have a writer who is who is basically being ridden by a demon to write to prime the earth for this invasion by making his fiction real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I would recommend people who have not seen it to go see it.
You think Stephen King was watching one of the edited versions on like TBS before he wrote these and was like, that's a really good idea.
Maybe on TBS in between Shawshank reruns.
Yeah.
I think that, and I've read this somewhere. Who knows if it was somewhere reputable? I think that John Carpenter and Stephen King are mutual fans. Which is probably why there might be a little bit of sharing of ideas in between.
Oh, I wonder if they play in that band together. What's it called? The Remainders or something? Like, I wonder if they get up there and jam. Isn't it a bunch of authors? Like Dean Koontz is up there. Like,
yeah,
we got Dean Koontz on bass or whatever.
We got Dave Barry on lead vocals. I kind of want to see that.
We got Clive Barker playing the triangle.
And on Puzzle Box as an Airsad's drum kit, we've got Clive Barker. Someone's a Cena bite at the end of the show. So anyway, they're back in the hotel room. The phone has finally rang. And it's Richard Sayre, kind of the lead low man, the one who tricked Callahan by pretending that they were going to give a bunch of money to the homeless shelter that Callahan was kind of allied with, that he helped run. And he gives Mia directions to the Dixie Pig. We'll remember what parked her rig at the Dixie Pig and something. That's going to be treated as a revelation later, which I don't know. Mm-hmm. It rhymes. It fits the meter. But the Dixie Pig is the restaurant where the vampires eat. It is a barbecue place that serves long pig.
And Richard Sayre does a great job of continuing to trick Mia, who, again, we've established is not that smart. But she's like, they said I can't keep the baby. And he's like, well, you could have the baby for as long as 7 years. Mm-hmm. But he never says you will. But he's like, you could have the baby for 5 years or 7 years.
Yeah, maybe 5 or 7 or 2 or in no way will you be devoured immediately to start his growth spurt.
Yeah, it's possible you could have the baby for 10,000 years. Who's to say?
Yeah, I don't know. You're in America. It's a free country. Anything goes. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like a desperate person, and it doesn't matter if they're not that smart to begin with, or if they're incredibly smart. How they're desperate, and somebody like Sayre is telling them exactly what they want to hear. And it's mm-hmm. like Detta almost steps in, and it is it seems to me in my read of this that it is half out of just utter revulsion at Sayre and what they have done to kind of engineer all these terrible things that have happened, but also she's stepping in on Mia's behalf to like really irritate Sayre, right? Like coming forward and say, like, pointing out the obvious lies that Sayer is saying. Sayer hates it. Mia is trying to lock both Susannah and Detta, behind these successively stronger iron doors in her mind, but they always get through. And finally, the death blow is kind of dealt because Sayer says, "Hey, I've got some good news and bad news. The good news is that Roland's going to be out of our hair. The bad news is your husband, Eddie, is going to be with him because guess who we've been listening to? You. And we have set up an ambush in Stoneham, Maine, where you people have been popping in and out. And so they're about to be cut down probably right now. Remember the aforementioned, the guns and then the killing and the shooting."
Whew. Really makes you understand why Susannah would slap herself in the face, huh? Like, just to get at Mia? Like, oh, you want to have primacy? You want to put yourself forward? Wow.
Yeah. Guess what?
Yeah. You sabotage my husband. Wow.
Yeah, no. And like, this is where it kind of came to mind what was happening, because it's a little bit vague. Like, it talks about like, oh, there were two women laying on the opposite beds or whatever. But like, all of that's the fiction. The reality is all of this talking that is happening is just Susannah, with Mia's borrowed legs, talking to herself in different voices while on the phone. And then the fight is just her hitting herself.
I think it says a lot that Susannah is more angry about her ka-tet being messed with than she is about having her entire body stolen.
Yes.
Like she's not like, I hate you and I don't want this baby, and like she's not doing any kind of eviction or I mean she's like, okay, yeah, Mia's here, whatever, but oh, don't you dare mess with Roland and Eddie.
Yeah, no, fuck you. Like, what it's not what gives you the right to do this to me. It's like, what gives you the right to do this to us? And, she can't really do anything about it. She's got, it's happening. And as far as she knows, it's, who knows if Sayer is telling the truth? We know he is, but yeah. It's a terrible thing. They have got the fight, and then Mia just up and walks them out of the hotel room toward the Dixie Pig, quote, where terrible surgeons awaited to deliver her equally terrible chap.
Yeah, you're not going to park your rig at the Dixie Pig. Not if you want to keep your cream on one side and your crap on the other.
Yeah, they will remove it surgically.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts about this about this section of the book, Autumn?
I really am enjoying this more than I probably have in previous years. Like, you can really start to see all the threads coming together. Mm-hmm. And it is action packed. It's so funny. Like, we stayed in Wolves of the Cala. I mean, it probably took place over the span of a week, and like, it was very stationary. And now we are all over the place, moving and shaking, jumping in time. Like, it is fun that things are happening and everything's kind of, it's like a wave about to break, like we're cresting. Things are kicked into high gear.
Yeah. It's funny because I agree with that description, but it kind of runs counter to the way, at least I, in the beginning, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. At least I set this up as, more of a place setting book, like in the description, in kind of explaining what happens and bouncing ideas off of each other. This does come to life in the analysis, I think, more so than it has tended to when I've just kind of like read it straight.
Yeah, I agree. I like it better now that we've talked about it than I did when I read it for the podcast.
That's so weird. Sometimes that happens. Oh,
now I have this deep affection for it. I'm like, aw.
I don't know.
Song of Susannah.
Do I need to call the scientist? Is this your favorite now?
Hey, I'm a ride or die the Wastelands lover.
Yeah. It's funny in the past, like, when the question has come out, usually the prevailing notion in a given season is like, I generally like the Wastelands a lot, but like this one it's asserting itself, like it's probably giving it a run for its money. That's probably not going to happen here. But it is coming to life a little bit more.
It's always darkest before the dawn.
Autumn, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Mrs. Greer. That's MISSUS Greer. You can also find me, especially now that we're up and popping again, in the Radio Free Midworld chat on Slack.
Yeah, in the Duckfeed Slack. It's wonderful having you back. Thank you. You know the usual.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. You know the usual stuff you can do. I'm so sorry about the break. I have no excuse other than the move ended up. So I recently moved. I left Cincinnati and moved closer to home and bought a house and got set up. And it's funny when you stop something. It's even for a little bit, it's really hard to get it started back up. And people who have, written and asked, hey, where's this at? I don't necessarily have a super satisfying answer for you as to why it stopped, but, we're back. So look forward to having you here for the remainder, because we're pretty close to the end, honestly, at least as far as the books go. But yeah, ratings and reviews in iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, and patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv if you want to get into that Slack. Talk about these books with a great community of people. But otherwise, we'll be back next time with more Song of Susannah. And until then, long days and pleasant nights.